On today's show, we take a trip down memory lane to 2015 and look back on some of the wildest crashes we've seen over the past 2 decades with Speedweek's Crash Factor. Then we continue our retro rewind and move forward a few years to 2019 and the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit, where it plays host to the Southern Hemisphere's biggest historic motorcycle festival, the International Island Classic. This is Speedweek.
Motor racing. It's one of the most exciting sports in the world, but it's also one of the most dangerous. Whether it's on land or water, 2 wheels or 4, one thing is guaranteed. Things can and often do go wrong. Hi everyone and welcome to the show. Today we look at motor racing from a very different angle. You know, each week right around Australia, and for the world that matter, thousands of racers take to racetracks to entertain the thousands of fans that flock to the fences. And while most races end well, there's always room for those unwelcome disasters. Coming up today, we take a look at some of the wildest moments of the past decade, including Chris Matheson's Nitro Champs tumble.
We were doing about 370. As soon as I came off, I knew this ain't going to be real good.
Slade Stanley's underwater adventure.
He's gone. He's gone.
Stephen Reed's fiery New Year's party.
We had a big fire, probably a bit past half track. The car erupted.
Jamie Bricknell's up and over at Latrobe.
Red part to the outside, there's contact! And a massive crash in turn 3. Oh, Jamie Bricknell, a frightening ride there.
Phil Lamartina's trip into outer space.
I can still visualise seeing the night sky through the dash. And then after that, don't really remember much.
Larry Dixon's spin and win at Willowbank.
Yeah, just leave it to the Americans to come up with a move like that.
And Mick Carroll gate crashes the neighbour's Saturday night barbecue.
Out of nowhere, we decided to clip a bank and went straight up in the air, flew over the fence, straight over it.
All that and much more. For our first crash today, let's head out to the quarter mile and top fuel motorcycle. Drag racing, fast, explosive and without doubt exhilarating. These nitro-breathing missiles are often described as planking at 200 miles per hour.
You get a pass and you get down the other end and you've shut it off and the bike's sitting there with smoke coming out of every orifice and it's crackling and tinking and whatnot, and you know, it's peaceful down there and there's nothing better. You know, the buzz from the adrenaline and the speed there's just nothing out there. So that's why I keep doing it.
After setting the quickest elapsed time, Chris Matheson came off his Nitro Voodoo machine in the braking area in spectacular fashion during the Nitro Champs in May 2013 at Sydney Dragway.
Chris Matheson in the top bike category has just come off his bike, probably about 200 metres behind us. And up here we can see the bike over the safety barrier. It's gone about 150 metres in gravel, and we're looking at about $250,000 worth of damage there. And hopefully, of course, Chris is safe.
Matheson leaning forward, 0.10 light. She's an ugly ride so far.
It was actually our last qualifier on the Saturday night, and we'd already qualified, but we were trying to beat our track record in Sydney, so we stepped it up a little bit, and there's a bump in the right-hand lane just past the finish line. So I've been over it 100 times and never had a drama, but this particular time we had a bit of speed on board. We were doing about 370.
She's an ugly ride so far.
When I shut it off, and just at the time I shut it off, I reached out with my left hand to grab the rear brake and hit the bump, and slapped my fingers. And of course, once it slaps your hands, your hand comes up and away you go.
Oh my goodness, off the bike and tumbling like a rag doll.
As soon as I came off, I knew, like first I can remember, as soon as I hit the asphalt, I thought, oh, this is not good, I'm off the bike. As I was sort of tumbling around, I saw the bike disappear into the distance and thought, yeah, this ain't going to be real good. It finally sort of came to a halt, the bike kept going, and I got up to my haunches and could feel a lot of pain, particularly in my foot, and then the fireys and the ambos turned up, and next minute I was in the back of the meat wagon and off to hospital.
He's up on his knees.
Wow, that is a tough racer.
Matheson suffered multiple injuries in what was one of the most frightening incidents in recent years.
Still recovering. I've got all my pins and plates. I shattered all my foot, broke a few other bones, banged up my knee, beat up my heart when I tumbled. So I've had a couple of heart operations since. And I got a fairly solid whack on the back of the head when I initially came off. So lost a lot of bark, a few burns, pretty nasty one in my shoulder blade and whatnot. But apart from that, I was pretty good, really. It could have been, as I say, could have been worse.
Well, the good news is that we have heard that Chris is certainly up and about, talking with medical officials. Damage to his ankle, may have a suspected broken ankle. You'd imagine he'd have a bit of bark off as well, sliding.
It was Matheson's second crash in Sydney in 4 years. Could this have been the end of his career?
I can remember, even in the outpatients ward, the emergency ward up at Westmead, I was thinking, and I was saying to the guys, even in the ambulance, how bad's the bike? Can we get it going? Can we get back out and run tomorrow? Because it's what I like doing, and that's what the rest of the guys like doing. If we didn't like it, or if we were spooked, we wouldn't do it.
Well, amazingly, Chris Matheson returned to two wheels just 6 months later at the season-ending Australian Nationals at the very same venue. Time to head to Griffith now and jump into the water and join former World Series jet sprinting champ Slade Stanley as he made the highlight reels for all the wrong reasons in a round of the 2013 High-Tech Oils V8 Superboat Championship.
I bring the luck. that's my biggest claim. Slade does have a very good photographic memory, I say, so he doesn't need me all the time to navigate, but I do navigating sometimes. We have difficult corners and whatnot. When we get the track maybe a few days before, sometimes the day of the race, we study it and just practice. We'll go up to the track, we'll do a walk around and we'll talk about the track and what corners we'll be specifically I'll be indicating, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
And let me tell you, Slade Stanley was about 6 corners ahead of this moment here. He's gone. And upside down.
Victorian plumber Slade Stanley and his navigator rode out a massive incident, landing back in the pit pool.
Well, I had a little bit of a mishap. I come around the corner, copped a bit of spray across the visor, and it just sort of impaired my vision with the glare off the lights. And I just come down the straight, didn't see the apex, and just went straight over it, launched me, and upside down I went.
Safety crew immediately on there. He was upside down.
Stanley emerged after 12 seconds, while the navigator was a further 8 seconds after. And if it wasn't for the speedy efforts of the safety crew, things could have been much worse.
Brake goes up,
Navi's out now.
And while on the topic of V8 superboats, this time we're at Melton in Victoria for the second round of the World Series in 2009. Kiwi-born Daryl Hutton was on a run that was on target for the win when this happened. The boat hits the earth bank hard, sending Hutton and his navigator into the air. And watch how the safety officials take evasive action as the boat spears into the safety fence. Well, the good news is everyone involved in that accident escaped serious injury that day. In fact, that night at the presentations, Daryl Hutton donated his second place trophy to the official involved in the incident. And later in the show, we're going to catch up with Mick Carroll as he rode out a massive incident at Tamora's first event under lights in country New South Wales. Time to head to Willowbank Raceway right now for the 2009 NZ New Year's Night Fire Series. The top alcohol final was an absolute barn burner with Steve Reid taking on the legend of the sport, Gary Phillips. The title lived up to its name when Gary Phillips took down Steve Reid, who hit the wall in spectacular fashion. A typically hot and steamy January night in Queensland was about to get a whole lot hotter. With these methanol-injected monsters putting out nearly 4,000 horsepower, the drivers know that anything can happen at any time.
We had an engine failure and got our oil out on the headers, and we had a big fire, probably a bit past half track. The car erupted. It was pretty wild there for a while. I mean, it was just a matter of trying to reach for the brake. Couldn't see a thing, couldn't see anything at all. Just had to go by where you thought you were on the racetrack. Reached for the fire bottles, but I think it was such an intense fire that the fire bottles didn't do much at all for knocking the flames down.
Steve Reid and Gary Phillips have gone head-to-head countless times over their careers, but nothing could prepare them for what was going to happen next.
You don't want to think about those things too much, especially on race day, but these things do happen. It's a dangerous sport, but with really, really good safety requirements and stuff like that. So, yeah, we've had a few scary things, but I guess that would be the scariest thing. Nobody likes fire, you know. Fire's nobody's friend, that's for sure. The good thing that did happen was when the car went into the wall, the body came off the car. It was probably the best thing that could have happened, because if the car had come to a stop with the body completely engulfed in flames, I think it mightn't have been as pretty as it ended up being. So with the body coming off, and that gave us clear, that took all the fire with it, and I was able to just undo my seatbelts and climb out. All I got was a very, very small burn where it was very intense fire, came through a seatbelt hole in the seat, the slot for the seatbelt, came through there and actually went up underneath my fire suit jacket, and a little bit of singeing of the eyebrows and stuff like that where a bit of fire came in around the helmet visor. But apart from that, I was fine, and that sort of thing, when it happens, it felt like it was about 20 minutes when it was only a couple of seconds. The car was a little bit second-hand, but and that's actually the car that's behind us here now with another body and a new front half and stuff like that, so everything comes out okay.
Stephen Reid was very lucky that night up there at Willowbank. Interesting fact though, that night was one of the first 5.5 second passes in top alcohol history going to Gary Phillips. Well, don't go anywhere, because right after the break we've got plenty more wild moments to come. Still to come on today's show, plenty of action including Jamie Bricknell, Phil Lamartina, Larry Dixon and Mick Carroll. Well, crashes, they're a necessary evil in the world of motor racing, particularly in sprint car racing. Each summer, plenty of crashes happen in the world of speedway. Last year, at the Australian Sprint Car Championship in Latrobe, Tasmania, Jamie Bricknell, Adrian Redpath and Eddie Lumber found out the hard way. Things can get real exciting when 20 900 horsepower sprint cars are racing in a confined space. Particularly when the Australian Championship is up for grabs in your home state.
They almost go 3 wide there. Redpath to the outside, there's contact! And a massive crash in turn 3. Oh, Jamie Bricknell, a frightening ride there, Chad.
Oh, that was monstrous. How high did Bricknell get? The thing did a full rotation in the air.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Someone must have been there and went over their front wheel or something. And yeah, nothing else we could have done. And, yeah.
Which is a tough old game.
Yeah, it's pretty hard.
Go and work on this car. Hope she gets better.
Thank you.
Jamie Bricknell's team were kept busy when he crashed hard in the opening night of racing in 2014.
Well, last night we had a meeting and we weren't sure if we were going to come back, and we talked about it and we were going to get the car ready next week, and then they were driving the truck home last night and had discussion, and they decided that they'd build it today. Last night I had a bit of sore back and stuff, but woke up and I felt a lot better, and I had the late shift building the car, so I called the crew, put in magnificent effort and got it all built, and by the time I was down there she was nearly done. It only took them a few hours. They were real keen and got up at 6:30 and pulled the other one apart and started building it straight away, and we were nearly done by 11:30, 12.
This is just a classic example of two cars trying to fight over that exact same piece of space. Wow, rear contact on both sides. Look how high Bricknell gets on the other side. That was incredible, climbed right up high.
Oh, there's the wall cam. Just shows how violent that wreck was. Adrian Redpath it was, squeezing up against the outside.
Crashes that big can end weekends, and we'll go this time on board with Bricknell. We can see just how quickly that thing goes over. Oh, and the crunch, it goes over twice before it even comes back down on the ground.
We're off and running.
Oh, Darren Molyneux gets the car half sideways. This car's getting collected. Look at Milburn, got a great start on the top side. Eakins just moves up the racetrack. Oh no! The poor Tasmanian in Sean Dobson, absolutely nowhere to go. And then guess what? Everybody behind him had nowhere to go as well.
Yeah, it was one of them things. We had the outside line and yeah, 11 car had the pole and he just come straight from the pole up and banged us into the fence really. So
I looked and there was no one there at that stage, but obviously that guy was coming on the outside. We've taken his running. I agree with that. There's no problem there. But after that, we were a bit of a passenger because we got hit from behind and we got all tangled up with the other guy. So I don't really know what happened after that. And unfortunately, some innocent guys got taken out. It didn't do us any good and didn't do a lot of other people any good. And unfortunately, that's racing.
Just a selection of some of the big crashes that happen at speedways right around Australia from the past couple of years. Thankfully for those three guys, they walked away unscathed. Still to come, we head back to heat things up on the quarter mile.
All I wanted to do was get out of the race car, and the silly part about it is I could have done that myself. But something in my brain wasn't clicking to say, move your arms and legs and unclip yourself and just stand up.
Then we cool things down in Temora.
got out the boat, he went to sit down, I went to have a look at the boat, and I sort of thought we're not going to get it out again. So yeah, I think it was time to park it up.
Time to go circuit racing now and check in with the Shannon's Nationals. Let's wind the clock right back to 2006 now in a Sport Sedan Series race at Phillip Island Grand Prix Circuit in Victoria, where Dean Randall suffered one of the biggest crashes in series history, and he was far from happy with it.
Away we go, racing now, and Randall to lead away. Tomasi up the inside as they storm down into turn one here at Phillip Island Grand Prix Circuit. Tomasi, wow, Daniel, great run into turn number one.
But look at Ricciardello, he wants to improve on his points, and he's going to have a look up the inside. Randall's having a look on the inside as well, but four at the moment, all very, very close, and Tomasi's got it sideways, big time.
Tomasi got loose, they make the way, there's a huge crash. Randall tears the car to pieces, a violent series of flips, and he's okay.
He's
in fact, getting straight out of the car and not happy to be anywhere near the wreck, and who could blame him? Tomasi running up to see if he's okay, and Randall pegs the helmet at him. Well, raw emotion here.
Look, obviously we were in front. We looked like we had the racing line. I obviously got a little bit taily, and as she's regained grip, Dean happened to be in that spot. I think it was a racing incident. I know, obviously, Dean spat the dummy, but you know, we've got a pretty strong friendship. Hope he gets over it. I copped it on the just as I've started to slide rearward. I've just copped the underside of his tray, and I knew he was in trouble. So I'm out. I had the helmet off almost before the car stopped. I was unhitched, running full out. You know, obviously he was going to be on his roof or in some sort of trouble, and yeah, I think Dean beat me out of the car.
Yeah, I guess it was a bit scary, but you know, look, these things happen. You know, it was a racing incident. You know, just got to get on with it, get it fixed, and get back.
Well, while Dean Randall's crash was certainly big, there's been plenty of spectacular accidents in the history of the Shannon's Nationals.
Whoa! Speaking of big, I told you we were watching the drifting championships. Drifting, and they're off the track in a big way. Jarvis into the Darmco, and he's gone over. That was synchronised losing of cars, and I don't think they actually touched.
That's a big moment. Here it is from on board.
There was just a slight touch there.
Oh, wow. Ready for the impact. Bang. Ooh. And tips it over.
That's an onboard like I've not seen before.
We're underway at Morgan Park Raceway. Final race of the year. Side by side down towards turn one. We're on board with Simon Hagerty getting squeezed. Contact and hard into the wall.
Richard Bloomfield, it's good to see he's A-OK, which is testament to how strong these radical cars are.
Yeah, one of the regular front runners in the series. Boydo, 6th in the championship coming into this weekend. Off the road goes Gowan, sent off and into the tyres, him going a big way. How good is Aussie GT at the moment? 3 different brands in the top 3s, and they're all locked together dicing for the lead at the end of a 1 hour race. It's unbelievable.
And look how good JB is under brakes now. To turn one, no, he's going to go spearing off. He hit it far too late, and around goes Quinn. And
takes the Manolas Ferrari with him hard into the wall, which is Tony's car. He owns that Ferrari and lent it to Jim for this round. And now they've crashed together at turn 1 and both cars out of the race.
Oh, there was just a... John went bowing up the inside and got ugly and went off the track, and I coming back on, I avoided him, and then Jim just plonked in the side of me, I think.
It's pretty hard racing, you know, the top 6 or 7 cars are quite well matched, and it's good stuff. Tony and I were like, we both brake mega late at the end of the straight, and we both sort of were in too hot, to be honest, and I ran into the dirt, and Tony was on my outside. We didn't touch, but I don't know what happened after that.
Who was at fault? No, it's me. No, I've got no idea. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's at fault. It is what it is. I don't think they can lay blame, but we're all there, so.
Bit of damage to the car?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a fair bit. And the Ferrari that Jim was driving is my car too, so it's not that good.
Top of the hill. Oh, we've got another one into the wall. Big into the wall.
And that's
a monster crash.
Oh, that was a little bit tight. Mark Shepherd's still going, but behind him, complete chaos. On board with Mark Shepherd, he must have been thinking all sorts of things. Jeez, he's really given the left side of the car a fair whack. Managed to follow through. You can see from this shot, John Vigotis has really gone from... He's been the punching bag in this one. He won't be happy with that.
All bunched up there before the starter is given a start flag. We've got a smash on the line there. Not sure what happened then. There was some mass confusion with drivers.
Well, don't go anywhere. We've got plenty of more wild moments to come right after this break. Still to come, we head back to heat things up on the quarter mile, then we cool things down in Temora. You know, Top Fuel Racing is probably the world's fastest motorsport. Cars reach speeds of 500 kilometres per hour in just the quarter mile. Way back in 2007, the now two-time Australian Top Fuel champion Phil Lamartina was in just his first season when he suffered this big incident at Willowbank Raceway.
I only remember sort of coming to, and I was coming in and out of consciousness, and it's a funny thing. I think every human reacts differently to trauma, but all I wanted to do was get out of the race car, and the silly part about it is I could have done that myself, but something in my brain wasn't clicking to say, you know, move your arms and legs and unclip yourself and just stand up.
Everybody jumped in the tow car, we were going down, and then when we got to the finish line, they'd opened the gate up because the fireys had gone through there. We went that way because we thought it'd be a bit quicker, and then as we've gotten onto the track, all we've found on the way down is just debris of the car, the front end, the wing, the panels. We were just dodging and weaving, and getting down there to see where Phil actually ended up. Because I got knocked out, I don't really remember a lot of the actual run, but what I do remember is the staging lanes. It was one of the first times going to sort of run up against Darren since he had left the team. The car took off. Apparently, which I see of the footage, it took off really well. It was on a really decent pass, and the part that I only remember after that was when the car broke in half. Yeah, well, that is a moment I do remember, being on the start line. The car took off quite well. It was on a good pass. He went over the finish line. We saw the score. Didn't even know anything at that exact time, because as the car goes over the finish line, it sort of gets a bit dark and it goes over a little bit of the rise here. And anyway, we sort of didn't know, and then all of a sudden it just the night sky just lit up, and that was just sort of when I personally said there's something wrong.
Phil Lamantina in the Fuchs machine, monstrous crash.
Still visualise seeing the night sky through the dash, and then after that I don't really remember much, because I got knocked out. I only remember what I see of the footage, and then only coming to in the deep end when the official come and said, look, I think you're still alive and you're all right, and help's coming.
You have a look at the car, it is on a good pass, and then look at the front of it. The car chassis actually breaks in half right in front of the driver. The rear wing turns from downforce to lift, and it literally took off and flew for about 250 metres.
The air time, Rob, is simply amazing.
That angle really demonstrates how far the car flew.
Then when we got down there, he'd stopped up against the concrete blocks on the side. He was a bit dazed and that, and we said we were there, and he sort of calmed down a fair bit by then, and we just said, we just got to make sure you're all right, you haven't broken any bones. He said, I feel good, I'm right. So we helped him out.
And then from there I just walked under my own steam, obviously, to the ambulance, where they took great care of me, and I really had nothing wrong with me, and I had the scratch on my finger, and apparently I was carrying on a little bit about my scratch, and because I was oblivious to what was happening, like how bad the accident was, what I've been through and anything like that. And here I was complaining about this scratch on my finger, and they thought it was quite humorous. But she accommodated me, the nurse, and she put a Band-Aid on it. So that was all good. And then we had the ride back to the Ipswich Hospital just to make sure, get all checked out. And that was quite an interesting ride. I think the accident didn't make me sick, but the ride in the ambulance back to the hospital did. But that was interesting, and got to the patients, and we spent overnight, and I come back the next day out to the track. And I think the other surreal part about the accident also too the next day was how many people looked at you like you were a ghost. You can see it in their eyes and their expressions that they couldn't believe I was alive.
To see what was left of that car, which we still have at home, is practically the most important part, which was the cockpit. So it was a real credit to the car and the safetiness of the sport and what they do with the chassis. At about the 300-foot mark, the chassis sort of popped up a little bit, and what actually happened right then, which the car was in trouble from then, was that this section here had broken through just one of the four chassis frames, and as the car went further down the track, it really got the arch up because he was on a good pass. When it got to the end, it just couldn't hang on anymore, and it sort of bowed right up, and it snapped all the other three off.
A crash like that would surely make you question why you would do this. But for Lamantina, he had some unfinished business.
I'm lucky I'm here, I'm still doing it. After the accident, I had to, weigh up if I was going to continue on, and spoke with the family, especially Sarah. And she just said, whatever you do, I'll support you. And it was something very interesting because, that sense, or that, I don't know, I'm not a huge believer in that sort of stuff, but there was something out there that just said, you know, you've got to go back because it's unfinished business. And I'm glad I did. I won a championship since then, and you know, we continue to do it. I'm racing now together with my brother. So them opportunities have come now, and I'm happy.
Phil Lamartina in the Fuchs machine. Monstrous crash.
It's hard to believe that Phil Lamartina got away with that incident in Willowbank in 2007 with just a small cut to his right hand. Very lucky indeed. Speaking of lucky, the same can be said for three-time NHRA Top Fuel champion Larry Dixon. The American had a similar incident at Willowbank in 2013.
Man, Dixon's had some incredible moments in his career. I doubt that many have got his attention like that one just did.
That is one of the strangest things I have seen in over 25 years of watching drag racing.
Yeah, just leave it to the Americans to come up with a move like that.
Larry Dixon, one of the most experienced drivers in the world.
Oh my goodness gracious me! What an epic run that was. Dixon somehow pulls off a miraculous 360-degree spin. It is sheared off the left rear wheel and he is driven out of that.
Wow. Wow, that is 20 years of top fuel driving experience right there.
American Larry Dixon was up against his teammate Damien Harris in the elimination round at Santos Super 3 Extreme Drag Race when the rear axle breaks just before half track.
The car went out there and it launched fairly well, and it actually broke an axle, and so it lost one of the tires. And when it did that, all the power, and the engines make 10,000 horsepower, all drove to the other wheel, and it drove the car into a spin like that. And so you lift off the throttle, try and get the car back squared up again, and down the racetrack, get it stopped, and you know, kept it off the wall, which is big, so that'll still give us the opportunity to try and repair the car and get back out there.
The crash could have been more severe for both drivers if it wasn't for Harris's car suffering a mechanical issue in the other lane.
Yeah, it could have been, but I mean, I think, you know, some of that stuff you wonder why it didn't or whatever like that, that's the Lord working. So you just, I thank him for taking care of both of us on that run, and we're going to be back out there to battle more later on this evening.
Dixon would bounce back the following night to go under the national record for top fuel in this country, a staggering 4.50 seconds at nearly 535 kilometres an hour. Well, so far we've seen plenty of incidents on land and water, but we haven't forgotten about the two-wheeled fans out there as we check out some highlights or lowlights of the Australian motorcycle racing scene.
Look at this three wide. Who will it be? Oh, Essel and Muggeridge have come together. Dear, well.
Chasing the hare. Never mind the hare. Oh, no. Look at this. Oh, Stouffer and that's cut. That is a big prank.
I didn't get a chance to hit the brakes, and I was doing 292 k's at that point when I hit Gilesy, so it was pretty quick downhill sloping wet grass to be doing that kind of speed. Broken arm, ankle, 4 ribs, and a bit of a vertebra with also a few fingers here and there, you know, so.
himself out of the lead.
Oh, Jones is down in a big way. A nasty accident for Jones.
Set up substantially different. Oh, Rick Crocker has lost the front end and has gone down. Well, Kinner in behind him. Oh, Kinner's lost the front end. Over he goes. Look, geez, look at the damage done to his bike. And have a look at this. Oh, can you believe this? Sean Giles has gone into the back of Matthew Mladen's bike. A big hit there for Sean Giles.
Here comes the young fella back at him. Oh! High side and down hard. A face plant and high side combination.
Comes up the inside. While they've touched, it is Giles down. McCarthy has run off the track as well. Can you believe that?
Oh no, he's hit the back of Braden Carr's machine and gone down. That is a massive, a very fast crash. Paul Byrne did extremely well to miss him on the ground.
Jones in there as well. And in fact, Jones now off and gone. Oh, Olsen up the inside. Oh!
We've lost
Front
Rick
wheels
Olsen.
down onto the grass and he's off and he's taken out Michael Blair at the same time.
Increasing that championship. Hurtboss is oh no! That bike has been absolutely destroyed, lads. That is a huge crash. I don't know how Troy's managed to get up in such good condition, and the bike is completely and utterly annihilated.
And you can see once it's hit that ripple strip and bounced up in the air, it rolled 3 times and twisted twice. And oh, the way that it landed on that back wheel has just bent that frame. You could see the bend happening when it landed.
Well, as we saw earlier, V8 superboats, they're fast, pointy and always on the edge of out of control. Back in 2013, the Temora track in country New South Wales put in lights for the first time, and Mick Carroll made sure the night went down in history when the throttle jammed on his boat, sending it into the night sky and into the next door neighbour's property. Although relatively small, V8 superboats are impossible to tame. Every driver and navigator knows that one false move can easily end your night, or worse, your career. And when navigator Victor Kondratenko strapped himself into the Excalibur boat that Saturday night, little did he know he was about to go for the ride of his life.
Well, we were heading out the right direction and the boat was running pretty smooth, and out of nowhere we decided to clip a bank and went straight up in the air, flew over the fence, straight over it. And yeah, we just decided to park the boat in next door paddock sort of thing. Yeah, got a bit hurt, but it's not too bad.
Carroll himself was taken to hospital and the boat was seriously banged up. But you don't get behind the controls of one of these missiles unless you're prepared for the worst.
Well, the first thing was going through my mind is, ouch, it hurts. And after that one, we actually came to a complete stop. My driver, Michael Carroll, turned around and said to me, he goes, "Oh, you all right?" I said, yeah, I'm not too bad. Got out the boat, he went to sit down, I went to have a look at the boat, and I sort of thought we're not going to get it out again. So yeah, I think it was time to park it up.
The dangerously spectacular nature of this crash made it one of the most viewed V8 Superboat clips ever. And you'd be hard-pressed to find a boat more airborne than this. Well, Mick Carroll and his navigator were very lucky to walk away from that incident in Temora. That, in fact, was Mick Carroll's third incident at the Temora track there in country New South Wales. That wraps us up on today's show. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Until next time, I'm Matt Nolte. It's bye for now.
Coming up after the break, we wind back to 2019 and the action-packed International Island Classic from the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit.